All right, let's move now to Glasgow, Scotland, to find out about how activists have received the unexpected deal between the United States and China, of course, two of the world's biggest carbon emitters. The two global rivals announced a joint declaration yesterday vowing to boost climate cooperation. Politicians and activists from some 200 countries have been attending the COP26 Global Climate Summit, which officially ends tomorrow. Our senior reporter Siphamandla Goge has been there this week, and he joins us now. Siphamandla, thank you so much for joining us. So tell me why this deal is so significant. Is it purely because they just emit so many dirty carbons?
Well, indeed, let me tell you, Sally, that many people were surprised that both countries issued that joint statement saying they are willing to work together over the next decade to cooperate. It was a surprise move in a sense that before the start of this conference and during the start of this climate change conference here in Glasgow, you had a lot of mistrust between the United States of America and China in particular. The U.S. President Joe Biden was here and questioning why the Chinese president was not attending this one. And also the Chinese delegation was said not to have been keen on the discussions that are taking place here. But let me tell you that that joint statement by both countries, which basically enjoins them into cooperating over the next decade into ensuring that the world's two biggest emitters here, they pledge to act in a joint declaration. And I can tell you that that has been a significant development here at COP26. Not much has happened in terms of all the commitments that have been made before. Let's be quick to point out that this is not a new commitment. The rich and powerful nations in the world have made such commitments, but at least for COP26, this is seen as a positive development because many people were saying without China and the United States of America, nothing much will come out of this COP26. We have spotted a Chinese delegation here, and I think 2 days ago there was that engagement between the Chinese representative and the United States climate envoy, John Kerry, on the corridors of this COP26. That was not an official meeting, but I can tell you that both countries did meet. It seems as if that engagement has resulted into this commitment. Let's take a listen to the EU's chief negotiator at COP26 explaining why this matters.
Well, I'm certainly hopeful. We still have a mountain to climb, but I still think it can be done.
The developing nations are calling on the developed world to honor their commitments when it comes to the issue of climate finance.
I think that is one of the most important things we need to do, to prove to developing nations that we are good for our word.
What do you think of the mistrust or trust that exists during these talks?
Well, I can understand that because, so many countries are already suffering deeply in this climate crisis.
All right, so Sipa, that's not... Siphamandla, we'll just take you, just tell us what's happening here. We'll cross live to Sipa now.
Okay. Yes, there's no point in that when we've still got a day or perhaps more than that to go. But there is a mountain to climb. The requirements here for world leaders could not be clearer. Fill the finance gap. There can be no excuse for not doing that. I've tried in a very small way to show the lead from Scotland today and not doubling but trebling our own climate justice fund. And if you fill the finance gap, then filling the other gap on emissions becomes not easy, but easier. The path to that is open. So we know what needs to be done. The question now is there the political will, the political leadership and the political determination to get there. And in my view, failure is not and should not be an option. So my message to every world leader is do what needs to be done to get this deal to where it needs to be.
New Zealand's climate minister has told me that some countries are dragging their feet. They're deliberately slowing things down. Does that worry you?
Of course it does. I mean, I appreciate that these negotiations will see some countries want to go further on some things than other countries, and in some respects it will be the opposite. And I also can totally understand the frustration of people outside this summit who look in and see countries haggling over the future of the planet. But we need to have a process that gets us on a path to 1.5 degrees. We're so far off that path right now that it is frightening. So we need to make sure that the commitments are made for this decade, and that's what's crucial to keep 1.5 in reach. And key to that is finance. So, what we have now is a lot of clarity about what needs to be done. Of course, there are lots of complexities in how to achieve that, but political will and political leadership is what we require over these next couple of days, and I hope that is not found wanting.
Do you think these talks are in crisis?
Listen to Alex Sharma just giving his presser. He said those financial talks have to be accelerated right now. It's clear there are some people standing in the way. What do you know of that?
I think there are clearly some people standing in the way. I'm not in the negotiating room, so I'm not going to try and second guess. Obviously, I'm talking to lots of people who are in the negotiating room, trying to press them to move forward as far as possible. I mean, there's more to finance than $100 billion a year. I think we've got to understand that. We need to get systems and processes in place that unlock trillions of pounds, not billions. But that $100 billion, I mean, we've just heard Vanessa Nakati in there talk about how vital that is to trust and confidence between the developing and developed world. And that should be relatively easy to close. And therefore, I find it inexplicable that there is not a political will to do that. But look, we are not at the end of this yet. We still have time to go. You know, COPs have a tendency to overrun, although I think the pressure should be to get a deal on schedule tomorrow. But let's see political leadership. The UK holds the presidency. They've got to take the lead in bringing that will and determination to bear, and I hope that's what we see, and I hope we get to the point that not the Glasgow COP is going to solve climate change in its entirety. That was never going to be the case, but it starts to close the finance gap and get us clearly onto a path that will limit global warming to 1.5 degrees. The alternative, we just heard Vanessa in there, you know, we talk about this in developed countries as if it is, you know, any other kind of political issue. This is a matter of survival for, you know, millions, tens of millions of people across the world. So let's get our act together in these final hours and get the deal that humanity and the planet needs.
Are these talks in crisis, Madam?
First Minister Nick Watford, Newsnight. Can I ask you just very basically, do you think Scotland is about to play host to a historic climate deal?
I hope so, but that can't be taken for granted right now. There's lots of work to be done, and there needs to be political leadership and determination over today and tomorrow, and if necessary into the weekend. That should be led obviously by the COP presidency, the UK government. I know Alex Sharma is working really hard. I've said I think the Prime Minister should come back here if necessary and spend every minute trying to push a deal over the line. I've, for 2 weeks, tried to do everything possible to help, although I'm not around the negotiating table, and I will continue to do that for every minute that remains of this summit.
Do you think Boris Johnson simply hasn't done enough, is not here enough?
No, I'm not saying that. I know there's a huge amount of work and effort on the part of the UK government. I know how hard Alex Sharma is working, but sometimes it does take leaders to step up and lead. Boris Johnson was here yesterday. I think that was hugely welcome. In his shoes, I might not have gone back to London, I might have stayed here in Glasgow, but he can still come back, and let's see no lack of leadership around this. Let's make sure that we don't leave anything out there, that we bring everything to trying to get this deal to where it needs to be. This COP's not going to solve climate change in its entirety, but my goodness, it can take a significant step forward to making sure that the planet is on the right track.
And are you disappointed that the UK government is making allegations that are clearly really contested about your MPs?
Yes, I am. I mean, my MPs are very clear. These allegations are unfounded and false. I know both of these MPs very well, and you know, I'm clear that that's what they have said. And you know, we know the Tories have not had their troubles to seek around issues in the past week or so. Maybe it's about deflecting attention. To be honest, apart from being clear about my own MPs and what they say is false about these allegations, what I want is all of us.
Well, Sally, there you have it. That is the First Minister of Scotland, Nicola Sturgeon, basically briefing us, the media here. She's just emerged out of one of the plenaries. Of course, she's not negotiating on behalf of Scotland, but she's concerned about the slow progress in terms of reaching a deal here. So that question you asked earlier on about progress report here, she says time is running out. All negotiators and world leaders and all parties need to come together to save COP26, because as we speak, there is no formal official official deal. As you can see behind me here, the queue is still long. Negotiators, observers and other interested parties are still making their way inside the plenary session there to discuss, and they are out of time because by tomorrow this conference needs to wrap up. But it's not surprising that it's taking long to produce a deal. Out of all the climate change conferences that we have covered, I can tell you that in most cases you are likely to have a final document known as the text dropping a day after the conference has closed, making it very difficult for parties to negotiate. This tells you that there are serious disagreements, and at the center of that is the issue of powerful nations not honoring their commitments when it comes to climate finance, something that Nicola spoke about.
Yeah, it was quite interesting what Nicola Sturgeon had to say, where she says COP26 is not going to solve the climate crisis, but an agreement can certainly go a long way. It's hard to see beneath the mask. She did seem a little bit frustrated, but as you say, we are getting to the business end of this conference now, and in order for it not to be declared just another talk shop, they definitely need to have some sort of deal that they can hold the world to. And I want to thank you very much for chatting to us, just bringing us a little bit of a live update from the COP26 Climate Change Conference, which is just a day away from wrapping up in Glasgow, Scotland.